and could very likely save us a great deal of money while creating much, much greater environmental benefit than some current approaches that we have. So it'll be interesting. We'll be taking a report to the CRD board the week after next week and making some recommendations about how we go in the future. I'm on the Finance Committee, and the Finance Committee has a lot of things in front of it, but one at the initiative of the chair, Mr. David Howe. He wishes to look at the issue of procurement in the CRD and how that can be modernized to perhaps bring more innovation and potentially save money. I'm on the CRD Water Commission, and we recently sent a recommendation to the board on the leach lands in the water district about protecting them for the water supply and excluding some public access at the present time, where there is a great deal of damage unfortunately being done, and has over time been a kind of an unregulated situation. That's potentially dangerous for our water system, especially with the issue of potential forest fire. And so that was on a tie vote, not passed by the board, sent back to the commission, and the commission has decided recently to send it back to the board along with a very complete package of explanation of exactly why the commission felt that the board should approve the changes the commission has suggested. I'm also on the Planning, Transportation and Protective Services Committee, where we will be dealing with the regional growth strategy, a critical document to this region and to the future of it, and something that we are behind in our review on it and really need to go forward on, I hope, quickly. And finally, I'm on the east side, I'm on the Core Area Liquid Waste Committee. We'll have come in front of us on February 24th the issue of options that were put out for the public discussion, and decisions will have to be made as to how we move forward. And they will at the same time receive the task force report, as I mentioned. And finally, I'm on the East Side Committee that is also dealing with the sewage project. The East Side Committee seems to have geared down a little bit as things moved more back to the Core Committee. And that's for my report. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Very interesting and comprehensive. Councillor Bryce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will take my time here to share with Council the fact that I have new responsibilities at the CRD now, and I'm chairing the Transportation Select Committee. And this is a very interesting process. The Transportation Select Committee last year, I wasn't on it, but last year finished off its business by saying, and we recommend that the CRD take on transportation as a service. Now our committee is tasked with putting that into place. So what does that mean? As the CRD cannot just take on functions, the CRD can only take on services which it is empowered to by the member municipalities. It means that we will, at the committee, work with staff, put together a bylaw, put together perhaps some parameters, take it to the CRD board, back and forth, ultimately with the CRD board. If they do approve it, will then mean that there has to be a opportunity for each council to be presented with this option. It has been some time since CRD took on a new service, and I think that probably one of the thrusts for this has been a feeling that perhaps having transportation service will allow the CRD to embark on regionally significant infrastructure projects and perhaps seek senior funding for them. That, I guess, will play out as it plays out. I would think there also is probably a feeling that in that sort of attitude out in the public, which surfaced at the time of amalgamation and integration and so on, a sense that there needs to be more regional planning for transportation that truly, as people move throughout the region, they cross over multiple municipal boundaries. Anytime the CRD goes to take on a service, it is not without its drama. And there will be lots of chatter, I'm sure, and we'll have an opportunity at some point, if this does get this far down the track, to have a presentation here at this chamber, and we can decide what Saanich's position will be. So, in the interim, that's the work that I'll be working on behalf of the CRD over the next while. Just wanted to mention that at the CRD we had a committee of the whole where we had a tabletop exercise on regional disaster planning. And that was fill in some more blanks as to just exactly what role the region would play in a large region-wide event. So that's my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Sanders, your turn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I sit on the Royal McPherson Theatre Society, and there was a great discussion prior to, well, I guess prior to the beginning of the year about the City of Victoria taking back the McPherson Theatre and operating it themselves and being part of the Royal McPherson Society. However, I believe that is passed and that will continue with status quo. Is it actually the Royal subsidizes McPherson in many ways, both because of the size of the theatres and the Royal gets the more professional organizations which don't require all the labor and such as what the McPherson tends to get more of the non-profits and such, and as they're not professionals they require a lot more TLC as such, so the costs are a little bit greater. Anyway, that is discussion for those that have been at the CRD forever and around this table will know that this has gone on since 1999, I gather. This arrangement was made that the McPherson went to the CRD. I'm also on the Greater Victoria Coalition to End Homelessness, and they've recently done a governance review which was headed by Ted Hughes, and so there have been some recommendations there that will be going to the AGM, which is coming up. You'll notice that on Quadrant Tony, the Kool-Aid project is going well ahead, and that's a pleasure that that's going to be completed and be able to house the people there. The executive director resigned in the fall. The executive director is finished now, so they're going to be advertising for a new executive director. Social inclusion, 1,800 street survival guides were printed and distributed. And there's been 20 speaking engagements held within the public with the the homeless society and such. And the speakers are people that have experienced homelessness themselves. And so they're well received. And the point in time count was completed on February the 10th. So that's where people go out from noon to midnight, and they talk to people that are living homelessly. They spoke to 453 people when the surveys were done, so that's quite impressive. I'm also on the Water Commission, and the Councillor Denham has always reported about the access to the beach, so I will now pass the torch on to my colleague to the right when the mayor asks.
Should I take the torch?
Thank you. Nope, the meeting is over. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have much to report. I don't sit at the CRD board, and I'm not a member of any of the proper committees of the board. I am a member of the Water Commission. I think the topics on water have been well canvassed. I will just very briefly mention that I'm your representative at the library board. There are no fewer than 5 representatives from Saanich. I'm the only elected official, as you would no doubt guess, just by process of elimination. The library is a fascinating service, the library service, because it's 10 municipalities that collaborate to provide a service around the region, well, just about all of the region. There's some complications on the peninsula, but we won't get into that tonight. Which I think is actually to be admired. I think that it is unlike anything else we do in this region. But of course, it's budget time, and that is an incredibly complicated management process for the library staff. When you look at the requisition cost to 10 municipalities with a variety of populations and services. But the board has approved the budget to go to municipalities. You'll get a look at that shortly. The library is asking for a 2.49% increase from Saanich, which amounts to $131,000. So just some context there for how much it costs to run the library and the, I think, excellent service that we receive as a result of that excellent organization. So pleased to be a representative. Look forward to continuing to serve.
Thank you. Go ahead. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the torch. I'm going to comment on what's not been spoken of this evening, and surprisingly not much said about the Core Area Liquid Waste Management Committee being asked to make a decision on Wednesday, potentially on site selection. Perhaps Mr. Mayor will speak about that, given that you're Vice Chair, so if it's okay, I'll leave that.
No, go ahead, please.
Okay, so just to let the...
Thunder's still on.
I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking about that. I forgot. So for those members who don't sit regularly at the CRD board, just be aware that this Wednesday the CRD has given us a timeline deadline where we are being asked to make a decision, and I would ask you to perhaps look at the agendas and give feedback to us if you wish before that meeting. The other main one that I'd like to comment is just on the CRD Arts Committee. I was very pleased to be appointed the chair by new CRD board chair Barb Desjardins, and I'm happy to be in that role. The two areas that I'll draw this council's consideration towards, I'm going to be kind of leading the charge again, as I know several CRD directors have done in the past, of approaching the non-participating members of the CRD who do not participate in the CRD Arts service. And that's a bit of a Herculean task because the core members all see it, and we do significant contributions, thanks to members such as my member to my left there, Councillor Sanders' previous service on the committee. But we are going to undertake that work of approaching the non-participating, and we are reviewing the bylaw as far as how people actually are participatory funders. And that's important to do. So while that work is just beginning, it is an intention for me to see within the next 2 to 3 years every municipality participating in the service. The other component around the Arts Committee is the fact that there is a regional arts plan going forward. That terms of reference have been firmed up, and it's going to be going out for tender in the next month or two. And that is a potentially exciting document because while there have been previous studies done, before we go forward and look at potentially doing significant changes to how we view the arts and their role in the economic and cultural makeup of the region, we needed to do a kind of where are we now? And so rather than operating on a strategic plan from 5 to 10 years ago, we needed to do that. The last two comments I'd like to just make would be that I also serve on the governance committee, which has not yet met under the new lead of Chair Desjardins. Well, I'm thinking who's the chair of the governance? Is it
Rance?
It is Rance, so apologies.
Mayor Rance from Metchosin.
That's correct. Thank you. So that hasn't met yet. The other ones I sit on the CRD Traffic Safety Commission, and that work is interesting and important to make sure that the roads are safe for all users. And we are looking at potentially increasing our outreach. There has been some criticism levied in the past that perhaps there was too much focus on the menu and not enough on the work. And so even though nobody likes to be criticized for the work that they do, the message of what was behind his comment, the director's comment, I think has been taken to heart, and they're looking at how they can do more. Last, I do serve on the Capital Regional Housing Corporation board, and a new board was installed just recently. And with our Lunch and Learn Council will know that we, as a municipality, need to understand the ways in which the court decisions on how non-profit housing is considered tax exempt in certain circumstances is something that we're going to have to look at going into tax time and budget time, because approximately $125,000 was identified as being removed from being on Saanach's tax rolls. I do believe that the Capital Regional Housing Corporation Board doesn't see that it has a responsibility to contribute back to the host municipalities in which those buildings exist. And so we are going to try and strike a balance where whether or not it's a grant in lieu or something, we can't just simply say, yay hoo, we've got $125,000 of extras. 200 if you include all the schools and other components. But I'm just thinking of the municipalities' funds selfishly. But I do want to assure council colleagues, I am not, even though I'm a member of the board and I'm concerned of the Capital Regional Housing Board, I also want to represent Saanach's interest in said program so that we don't just end up holding the bag. So we will look at ways to make sure that Saanach gets its pound of flesh, metaphorically speaking. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gaines.
My compliments to my colleagues who are working so hard at the CRD and have become chairs and gave us a great report. Thank you for that. At the CRD I have two functions. I work on the Water Commission, and you've heard the report on that. And certainly the discussion around the access to the Leach watershed was a lively one and an interesting one, and we look forward to how that's going to roll forward in terms of public access. The other part I have is on the Regional Housing Trust Fund, where I was just elected again as Vice Chair. As we know from our Lunch and Learn, an additional point that we just heard from Councillor Plant is that the funding structure may be changing from a granting agency to a financing agency, particularly if we're successful in getting the $30 million from the province. It looks like we are, and the $30 million loan tool through the CRD. This will give a capital balance of capital access of some $30 million, and it will be very interesting to see how that impacts our ability to take a leadership on supported housing. And one of the things we asked for through a motion I put forward was an overview of all the different housing types in the CRD and how they're funded. So as we saw from our Lunch and Learn, it's quite a complicated picture that they presented, but there's additional pieces in there, the co-op housing and others, and I look forward to that coming when it's available. I do appreciate the opportunity to work at the CRD, and certainly housing and water are two files that are very interesting to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I don't have much to say, because I don't want to repeat what's been said before. I sit on 4 committees at the CRD. I sit on the Finance Committee. I was dealing with the procurement policy at the CRD. I also sit on the Environmental Services Committee, which has met only one time so far this year. Councillor Dermott has the privilege and the honor of being the chair of that committee, and I look forward to working with the committee this year. I also sit on the Core Area Waste Management Committee as the member and as the vice chair. The vice chair position gives me the opportunity to engage with staff and to be on calls with the province and the feds and learn more about their perspective on the project. I think my views on the CRD project are well known, and I bring those to the committee. One recent concern I have is that the consultation report, this has come to my attention, it hasn't been verified yet, but the consultation report that we will see on Wednesday is going to be shown to the Burnside Gorge Community Association tonight before we actually see it and approve of it. I don't know if this is true yet, but it's something I'd like to look into because I think it speaks to somewhat of a railroading of the process a little bit and thus to proper process. We are on very, very tight timelines, but in my experience in the companies that I've worked at, having a good process produces a good outcome, and we have to be mindful of creating a good process to get a good outcome and not be so focused on the timelines. We've been given, I think, a very reasonable timeline by P3 Canada, and is largely driven on process. We did not put much slack into the schedule, and as a result, as we've been squeezed for time, we have done things less well or not done them at all. And public consultation, I think, has suffered as a result. Given that there is no AAP process for getting electoral approval for these monies for sewage projects, because it is actually barred in the legislation. I believe it stems from the Municipal Liabilities Act and has been poured over to the Environmental Management Act, where the minister ultimately makes a decision based on the fulsomeness of the consultation. I believe the project is somewhat at risk at the ministerial level because we have more work to do, and we need to make a good decision and put forward a plan, and less of a discharge strategy, which has largely come in the form of maps and circles and what. I think it's a start, but I'm hoping at the Wednesday meeting that we have a good debate about how to take the next step, and I would not view a good next step as simply picking the lowest cost option and forwarding that on. I think we have more work to do to create a best value system that I've seen great evidence of, and we've seen much of that at the Ironman Task Force that has been, I think, doing great work. And in order to build something that's good value for our taxpayers, that's future-proof, that is something that we can be proud of, something that the Prime Minister can come and see, and something the Premier can come and see, or whoever might happen to be in government at that time, that falls upon us as elected officials to work with staff to help craft a very good process for getting that good outcome. And so I do spend quite a lot of time on that in my role as mayor and as director, and I believe we can get there. We just need to work together as a team and be less divided on moving back to old ideas. We should be looking forward. So with that, I'm going to thank everyone for their contribution tonight, and I'm going to look for a motion to adjourn council and move to the open forum.
Second?
Move in second. I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Not opposed. That motion is carried. And we'll just set up for the open forum. Staff are welcome to depart if they like. Good night. Thank you very much. All right, I want to thank you all for waiting for the open forum. We I don't know how many of these open forums we're going to have at the end because we've asked staff to come back with changes to our bylaw to move this up to the beginning, so nobody has to wait. Before I give the first speaker a chance to speak, I'm just going to go over the rules tonight so everyone's aware of what they are. So each speaker is going to be given up to 3 minutes to address council on a district-related topic. I'll run the timer here. Be aware that some topics are excluded under the rules of legal and procedural fairness. I ask for your cooperation and refraining from addressing matters that exclude. One such example would be matters that are going to be considered in a public hearing. In this forum, you're addressing the council. Questions must be directed through the chair and not to individual members of council. As necessary, I will turn over the question to a councillor or an individual member to reply. If questions remain unanswered, the question will be noted, later referred to staff or assistants, and I will take on that responsibility. Members of council should not make any commitments on behalf of the council. Please come up to the microphone, state your name and address clearly so we can contact you. Speakers that will show, I don't think we're going to have speakers that I'm just going to run it myself. And with that, I'll open it up for comments. Dr. Padgett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councillors. My name is Haji Charanya. I reside at 757 Genevieve Road, and I'm speaking on behalf of North Quarter Community Association. Because I'm not going to be here tomorrow and you're going to discuss some budget items, I just want to urge council to approve Morris Drive sidewalk funding for Morris Drive. That's hard and fast, and we have been working on it for the last 6 years. As far as the second item is concerned with respect to replacement of the trees on the north side of the BC Hydro substation, I urge Parks to take a little bit more positive and aggressive approach with BC Hydro. Just talking and soft pedaling is really doing absolutely nothing. So that's what I would like to urge staff to do that.
What did you call it, Haji?
The replacement of the trees.
I heard that. Did you call it soft pedaling?
Oh yeah, I think the feedback I got is, well, they're working with BC Hydro. I think we need a little bigger bigger representation from Saanich Parks, that we need to get it done. I think, Councilor Derman is fully aware as to what has happened there. And I would like some feedback from Parks as to what's done in a positive way, what is accomplished over the last 6 months or 8 months. I don't see that.
Okay, I've toured the site with you. Is your wish list well known to us?
Please, yeah, please, thank you. I've got 1 more minute left, and I'm going to use it.
Let me just stop you for a second. What's the number 1 and 2 things that you would like to see done?
Well, number 1 is obviously support the budget
Yeah.
tomorrow for the Morris Drive. The second one is see if staff can get back to us on the replacement of the trees for BC Hydro
Okay.
site.
What about the creek on the other side where the tower is?
Well, I think, the proposal has gone from the Saanich Peninsula Stream Society. I don't think we have seen anything positive on that as well.
Okay.
So that's something, if we can get some help on that, would be helpful.
And was the 2-for-1 tree replacement promised?
Yes.
I remember that big tree that was taken out, or the number of trees that were taken out as they were going to expand the yard,
Yeah,
and then they came up to the street, right?
That's right, it was a screening of the trees, and the agreement was, or at least the concept was, that they would replace those trees.
Okay.
And whether they replace it or Saanich Parks replace it, I'm not quite sure who would do it.
Okay.
And some of the road right-of-way may be used to plant the trees. I'm now at 3 seconds.
It's okay, go ahead.
One quick item.
Go ahead.
On February 13th, I attended a workshop at UWIC on this sewage treatment. And one issue which I was not fully aware, that the cost presented on those 7 options are good for 2030. And it requires $250 million more to extend the life of the plant, no matter what option we choose,
Correct.
to get it to 2045. That was the news to me. I did not know about it. And I think I've already given my feedback to CRD on that. And I've shared my comments with the representatives of Saanich. I think CRD should pause and take its time to rethink where do they want to go on this one.
Okay.
I'm not convinced that one of those 7 options are necessarily good ones.
Did you do the online survey?
Yes, I did.
How did you find that?
That took me about half an hour, but I did it. Struggled through it, yeah, but I managed to do it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I've never done survey like that before, so this was a new stuff for me.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm going to arrange to meet with our CAO and Parks at BC Hydro to figure out what's going on.
Please,
I
yeah.
look for you for more information and advice.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Next speaker, please. What's funny?
Oh, it's late. I was going to start by saying you guys don't know how to clear a room, but actually, Karen Harper, 3430 Bon Air Place, and I wanted to say that I'm pleased to be, thank you for the opportunity to speak, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'm pleased to be back after an absence, which some of you may have been pleased about, but in any event, my husband had knee surgery, so that was far more important than being here, so I followed up on that. But I'm back here tonight, and actually the reason I'm here is because it's the open forum, and I'm here because, and I apologize if I'm incorrect, but when I was away, I did check online to see what was happening in terms of minutes and so on and so forth, and it did appear that there were some months in which the open forum did not happen, and I am looking at the bylaw of the open forum, 54, and it's absolutely crystal clear that it must be held after the last regular meeting of every month, and that is, it's not the first, second, or third, it's the last. So it could be, if there's only one meeting, that's the meeting, or if there's 3, it's the meeting. But
Do you have it in front of you?
I have it in front of you, sure, I'll read it to you. So 54A says, council will hold a 30-minute, comma, or longer at council discretion, comma, punctuation is important, open forum once per month following the adjournment of the last regular council meeting in that month. And then it goes on to say that The open forum will allow any person to ask questions or address members of council on a district-related topic, blah, 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 blah. The only discretion in this bylaw is that you can extend beyond half an hour. There is no discretion about holding it or not. So if I'm wrong and they were held, then I apologize, but it's not clear nonetheless on the website if they're being held. And in fact, I would have come at the end of January, but it seemed to be not being held, so I didn't come because of that. So I do think it's important that it's your bylaw and you should be following it. And I was actually disappointed to see the Chief Administrator Officer leave because I thought he should hear that because I believe it's his job to ensure that as part of the process of setting up meetings, that they're set up appropriately for the scheduling and so on. The other thing I'll say, since Haji brought it up, is I also attended a sewage session. That was the one at the United Bay, Cadbury Bay Church. And I was very impressed with it, and I will be at the CRD on Wednesday, and I want to just thank Councillors Plant and Dermond for their motion that they're bringing forward to try and get some changes, but I also did the online survey, and I have to say, as someone who's been responsible for putting surveys together, I found it horrible. I found it led towards one solution only, and I think that we're rushing to a solution before we actually have looked at the technology that we need, and I think we're doing all the wrong things. And if I can get that in going to an hour-and-a-half meeting, I really wonder what's going on elsewhere. And I know that's not you guys per se, but some of you are there and you need to be dealing with that at the CRD. Thank you.
Thank you. Just on that last comment, I think that you're talking about